Hello and welcome to my YouTube video. Today's video, as you can see by the title card, is a Star Trek Lower Decks review of Season 1, Episode 1, Second Contact. The main cast of characters are listed here. Tawny Newsome as Beckett Mariner, Jack Quaid as Brad Boimler, Noel Wells as Deanna Tendi, and Eugene Cordero as Sam Rutherford. These are the main cast for Star Trek Lower Decks and are the main cast who will follow them through their adventures here on the USS Cerritos. We open up in episode 1 on Douglas Station, a mushroom-style station originally seen in Star Trek TOS films and The Next Generation. All the ships around it are in the TNG style, which really made me happy because I was so done with the Discovery-style ships. They just looked like someone had photoshopped them weird to make them ugly. It's wonderful to see it again. The opening narration is handled by Brad Boimler, who explains the mission of the Cerritos as a second contact ship meant to follow up on first contact. So you have the Enterprise, who would rock up to a civilization, make first contact, then ships like the Cerritos would come back up and make sure everything's done correctly, paperwork and all the like, administration. It's a really interesting idea that I always wondered about with the Star Trek universe, because we see the first contacts, but never anything after that until a series or two later when there's an issue with X or Y guys. So it was really nice to see that. The narration is interrupted by a very, very drunk Ensign Mariner. This shows off the reckless disregard the character has for rules and regulations. She boasts of getting drunk on duty, then she pulls out a blood-stained bat'leth and almost severs Boimler's leg with it. And I'm wondering if the one-eyed Klingon is a reference to Martok or not. And yeah, the injury to the leg is nasty. You can actually see the bone and tendons in the leg, which is, oof. Imagine that in live action. Oof, make you throw up something fierce. We also meet Ensign Tendi, a literal fresh off the boat officer. She's assigned to Boimler as he is the orientation officer for her. And we see the first part of the Boimler-Mariner dynamic, where Boimler tries to do things by the book and Mariner undermines him, highlighting her complete disdain for authority in any type. She tags along with the orientation merely because she's picked up a load of contraband and wants Tendi's help in hiding it around the ship, which, as they're going around the ship, reminds me a lot of the first episode of Red Dwarf, where Rimmer and I'm blanking on his name. Well, the two characters are literally walking through the ship as they got these big boxes just tagging stuff. We meet Ensign Rutherford, the fourth member of our little quartet, and the episode's B-plot. They also show how low they are on the command totem pole ladder, as they literally live in a corridor. But as it, even with that bit of a dick move, they do have a really nice view of the warp nacelles and the ribbon rainbows that come off them. I think would be a bit annoying after a little while, but yeah, living in the corridor. Never thought Starfleet would go that low. They head to the holodeck after Boimler is called out for his self-important attitude. And again, shades of Rimmer from Red Dwarf, with Ensign Boimler being the officious, by the letter, by the book officer, and Mariner being the more Lister, free spirit. We see how innocent Tendi is, as she has never seen sand, and we see Orion for the first time and get a glimpse of how dedicated Tendi is to Starfleet, as she was always too busy to visit the location where they're going before she left for the Academy. When asked about what he wants, we see Boimler shows off the ship's distinctive warp core before he's called away to the bridge. Mariner shows off one of her more risque programs, and then we cut to Galador. The Galadorians themselves are a little bit like the Furling parody from the 200th episode of Stargate, where they little furry guys. I like the design, pretty interesting. We are then introduced to Commander Ransom, the second in command of the Cerritos, who himself is both reckless and completely, well, I would say unsuited for the command post he's in, but he's like a jock, which I never really thought that a second in command would be, but it's really weird. And we see him being completely openly hostile to Ensign Boimler. Now, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be like, because it is in episode 1, they're still trying to find their voice. I'm not sure if this is the actual characterization of Ransom going forward, or whether or not it's just he's being affected by whatever's infected him. Because we don't see him ever go to the medical station after being bitten by an unknown bug on a brand new planet, which is just ridiculous. We meet the captain and the A-plot. She wants him to spy on Mariner. I don't know why. Command officers being dicks is a proud Starfleet tradition, with mostly with admirals, truth be told, but seem to be starting an earlier rank in this series. We cut to Rutherford's date, which is the B-plot. It's going pretty well, even when his new implant starts to malfunction slightly before going back to the A-plot as Boimler and Mariner beam down to the planet. And I really do like that implant. I really like the whole cyborg thing, but I'm wondering how going forward they'll condition that with the Borg, because there's a lot of people who got really badly affected by the Borg. So I'm just going to assume it's going to come up sometime later in the series. Back to the B plot, and suddenly zombies. It's revealed that the outbreak is happening all over the ship, and Rutherford continues with the date regardless. And it's zombies, like the 28 days later sort of rage zombies. I've never been a fan of zombies. Always seems like a lazy writing tactic for representation of whoever is in power at the time. And I've never really enjoyed the zombie genre. It's one of those things that got by me and I never really cared for. And we then cut to Tendi, who is thrown into the heart of the crisis, and her bubbly personality is quite the juxtaposition against the horrors that are just happening in the sick bay. Then we cut back to the planet and see Mariner sneaking off with crates of Starfleet equipment illegally. She's practically showing off that she's doing it as well. She's not even making any pains to be like, oh, you can't see me sneaking off. She's literally dumping the stuff on the van and just driving off. It is what it is, I suppose. Boimler follows and they argue, and it's revealed that she's not selling weapons but giving farming equipment. During the argument that they have over Starfleet protocol and what Starfleet Council and Starfleet itself takes so long in dealing with people like them, a giant spider is accidentally released, and that's mostly because of Boimler being very, very aggressive, like needlessly aggressive. Who pulls a phaser on someone having an argument? It's just, yeah. Mariner reveals that she was on the first contact team on the Quattro, or the ship she was on before. As the spider hunts for them, she collects random items to A-team her way out of it. I quite like this bit of Mariner's characterization. Shows her thinking outside of the box and getting things done, but at the same time I'm a bit annoyed that this whole situation's set up because of her flagrant disregard for Starfleet regulations, and she's literally demanding that Boimler trust her, and she has given him absolutely no reason to trust her. She's reckless, she's drunk on duty, she flagrantly disregards the rules. Would you trust someone in a survival situation that does that? I'm not sure I would, given the situation, but you know. And she throws away his comm badge as well, which I think is just as egregious of a thing to do. Like, that's his emergency get out. What if he gets severely injured and has to leave? You know what I mean? It's like, think things through, lass. Come on. The spider is actually revealed to be a vegetarian during their escape, and it's chewing on Boimler. It looks like it's chewing on him, and then we see no, it's just suckling on him, which is frankly more horrifying. I find, like, with biting and killing, that's done. Suckling you, oh, can you imagine that? It's just just the concept of it just makes my skin crawl. Then we cut back to the B-plot zombies as Rutherford and his date are cornered in an airlock, decks away from their rallying point. Rutherford's dynamic is great as they take suits and spacewalk to the rally point. I love Rutherford's thinking on the fire here. He's really intelligent. I really like this character so far. First episode, I think this kid's going to be my favourite character going forward. But the only downside is they're still flirting as they pass deck after deck of zombie fighting action, which I don't think they can ever really pull off in live action with Star Trek. They fight their way to another door after going back in, but it malfunctions. As Rutherford opens the door, they share a kiss, but Rutherford is so focused on why the door malfunctioned, he's not really in the game with the flirting thing. And I'd be curious too, after something like that happened, if the door didn't open when it was supposed to. But not during a fight, and not immediately afterwards, man. You gotta get some priorities, my guy. Seriously. Cut to medical as Tendi has to pump a heart for a guy without any anesthetic, and that is awful for the giver and the taker, and that is just nasty. Oof. And she's holding it outside the body. Like, why would you hold it outside the body? Well, I suppose cartoon media, but still, it's like weirdly stretchy, full out the body. Oof. We then cut to the spider. It's finally falling asleep while suckling a now very much traumatized Boimler, and I can't say I blame him. Jesus Christ. He is covered in the spider's saliva and slime as he gets pulled out, and he's buck naked because it sucked his underwear off after they had made Starfleet uniform scarecrows to attack it, to distract it. And I'm thinking, this poor guy, this poor guy, wants to just follow Starfleet regulations. He just wants the mission to go okay, and he gets suckled on by a friggin' spider. That's Starfleet. Mariner doesn't care either. As they drive back to the transport area, Boimler is literally having a meltdown after what happened to him, and she's nonplussed, like, doesn't care. Boimler reveals the parameters of the mission, and Mariner bemoans him for doing what the captain ordered. Even if it was secret orders, she's still the captain. He has to follow. Like, he is the lowest rung on that totem pole. He has to follow the orders unless they're actually illegal orders. And we've seen this before, sort of thing before in TNG with the Lower Decks episodes. So, ironically enough as well. They've been back to the ship amidst a last stand action as they tried to make his report. The doctor scans him and finds out that the slime is the cure. And then they rush to the finish and the cure the zombie plague. Often the officers continue to prove that they are dicks. Mariner gets away with traumatizing Boimler and abusing Boimler as he covers for her actions with the captain. It is revealed after he leaves that the captain is her mother, and the admiral contacting her is the captain's husband and Mariner's father. Boimler bonds with Mariner in the bar, much to the captain's consternation. Moral of the story: trust fund babies are mostly dicks, and all Starfleet officers are mostly dicks. This episode doesn't do Mariner well. This episode, like, I like Mariner as the series go forward. I develop more of a like for Mariner, but this first couple episodes actually, really are not Mariner friendly. They just show the characters being like a Rick sort of character, and I hated Rick and Morty. I didn't enjoy it at all, mostly because of the burping while he talked. But this does not do Mariner good, and later on she is a lot better. So my review for Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 1, Second Contact, is 3 stars. It's a good show. I enjoyed it. It got me back into Star Trek after the disappointment of Picard Season 1 and Discovery Season 1 and Season 2. The only downside is that it's very much of its time. When you watch it, you'll see a lot of stuff that you'd find in episodes of Rick and Morty, which I never really liked Rick and Morty. I said it before, I'll say it again. I didn't really enjoy Rick and Morty. I found the humour to be, well, more along the lines of let's abuse this character and laugh at their pain, which is very much what happens here with Boimler. He is very much the Morty of the episode. The characters were good, animation was good, love the design of the uniforms. They looked like the Star Trek Generations concept uniforms they ended up not going with. I like those concept uniforms, but I've always had a weakness for classic double-breasted style uniforms. The ship, the Cerritos, beautiful looking ship. The Saucer reminds me a lot of the Ambassador, and the Ambassador is one of my favourite ships in Star Trek, so I really like that. I'm hoping as the series goes on that Mariner and Boimler's dynamic gets better. Like I said, I've seen Season 1 of this so far, and I was like, well, I'm going to do YouTube anyway, so I might as well start with this. The voice of the series, I hope, will evolve into its own instead of parroting Rick and Morty as much. There's a lot of Star Trek elements in this, much more than Season 1, Episode 1 of Discovery. It feels more like a Star Trek thing. It's in an era of Star Trek I really wanted them to continue into, which is the post-Dominion War. And I like the characters so far. Sam Rutherford is by far my favourite character in this series so far. Love his dedication, his love of his job. It's really nice to see someone who actually has a love of the job they're in. Beautiful. Absolutely loved it. The officers are dicks, but that's pretty much par for the course. When you're in Star Trek, you'll find a lot of officers are dicks. We saw a fair few of them in TOS. We saw a lot more in TNG. And even more in DS9. Mostly it's usually it's confined to admirals, but it seems they're getting lower ranked each time we see them because the captain was a dick. And I don't know why someone would purposefully try to derail their own daughter's career, but as the series goes on, maybe we'll find out. So this is me signing off. Please like, comment and subscribe for the algorithm, for we're all slaves to, and I will catch you guys down the road.